And I think there's plenty of examples of people who are too afraid to ever make the jump. You know, fear of failure, fear of I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to fail, fear of people going to be saying garbage about me, so I'm never, I don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
If you do that, to me, you're never going to be successful. You're never going to find that passion. Sometimes it's location wise, like it's just physical. Like, where are you here physically? Where else can you go?
Yeah.
Go look at other places, man. Go meet other people, because you never know, right? The next person you run into, that could be they could turn you on to that passion.
Yeah.
But if you stay in your safe space and limit where you go physically,
where you're comfortable.
Yeah, and limit who you meet,
Mm-hmm.
and limit the experiences that you could have, you'll never know.
Yes, sir. Welcome to Success is Us. This channel is all about inspiration, motivation, and knowledge. The knowledge that will make you successful. Hence the name Success is Us, because we are successful, you feel me? So today I have a very special guest, one of my old teachers. I'm one of his favorite students ever, you feel me? Mark Sikora, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so Mark Sikora, I'm a teacher at Champaign Centennial High School. I'm also a coach here at Parkland College. That's kind of my professional days are.
Yeah.
I also, if you talk about success financially, I don't know if I'm the right person at this point in my life to tell you, but I'm doing okay. Purchased into a business about, I guess it's almost 3 years ago now. Business is still running, so I'm still a little bit ahead of the game. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. So the first question I had was because the 2020 pandemic, right, or the pandemic that's still going on right now, I know it hit students hard because I'm a student, and I felt that. But how was it for teachers? Like, how was it from the teacher's perspective? I know it was probably just as tough as it was for us.
Yeah, I would say even more so because we're older.
Yeah.
When you're young, when you're young, you can pivot real quick.
Yeah.
And it's so much of what teaching now became was tech based. The remote. Now everybody knows Zoom. No one knew Zoom 2 years ago. And so I think for kids, the transition was much easier. For older folk, like basically it just said, do everything that you normally do, but now you're going to do it remotely.
Yeah.
And the idea of working from home or wherever seemed all right, but yeah, just to try to catch up to speed on all that. And they also changed the hours of the day. They shortened classes, so not only are you supposed to learn new ways of teaching, but then you're supposed to do the same amount of stuff, shorter time, and then you're just the old cliche is you're fixing the plane while it's flying.
Yeah.
And so the kids have expectations of you as a teacher. Schools have expectations of the teacher, and the parents have expectations.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of our work was now very public. In a way, because if parents are home and their kids are logging on and their parents, they're going to look over their shoulder and see what else is going on in class. So, throw it all together, I would say, after my 25 and a half years of teaching, this was the strangest one ever.
Yeah. From a 1 to 10, how stressful was
it? Depends on the day and the time of day.
Yeah.
When it was bad, it was probably up to about an 8.
Yeah. Okay.
And that oftentimes came from a technical breakdown that you didn't know how to fix.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like Zoom hits there's a blackout on Zoom, or the Google Meets wasn't doing something, or you're dropped or whatever, and then. As teachers, a lot of times we were control freaks.
Yeah.
So now they're like, what are we doing? And I'm on, what am I clicking? What should I be doing? That was a struggle. But, once I got past the idea that there's some things I can't fix.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I mean, you just figure it out. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, because what else am I going to do? You know. So that part was pretty stressful. It's good, I think, in all areas. It doesn't matter if it's teaching, whatever you're doing. It's always good to have people around you that you can bounce ideas back and forth, and sometimes just be angry with each other. You need that vent group. They're like, man, this is BS.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Same thing over here. Next thing, and then after a while, like, okay, that's what we needed to do at the time.
Yeah.
Now, how do we help each other get back up? Get back on the horse and go again. None of us should be operating in a vacuum. You ain't gonna do all this by yourself. And so I'm very thankful for people I work with, especially in that apartment. We're in this. We were working through all these problems the best that we could together, and made it manageable. So the 8 stress level would get down to a 6.
Okay.
And then probably what took me back over the top was for all those people out there who say, well, kids are going to lose something this year.
Yeah.
We don't know that. There's a fear that that's the case, but at the same time, in education especially, you just don't know what an outcome is going to be until much later. And even then, you can't really go back and point to, that COVID year was the reason.
It's a lot of,
So, now, had you asked me this question my first couple of years of teaching, I would have been like, it was awful. I wasn't good, and I really messed a kid up or messed classes up.
Yeah.
But as I got older, it's like that's not the full game of education.
There's so many factors: your parents, the household, your environment, all that.
Yeah. So I put it all together. Like, of course, I'm saying this now because I just ended the year yesterday.
Yeah.
Now I'm just like,
hey,
that's done.
Yeah.
And I have been trying to get more tech-based in my teaching for years now. I mean, just something basic as having websites and stuff like that. So that stuff wasn't too much out of my wheelhouse, but the weird, you're in front of a screen and you don't know what they're looking at, and you don't know, no one's paying attention because they're all got their cameras off. It's just wild.
Was this semester better than last semester because you had experience with it?
Oh yeah, for sure. The first couple months were pretty brutal. Yeah. But none of us knew what we were doing. So it just mattered of survival and do the best you can.
Yeah. How was it mentally? Like, to be in quarantine and to be teaching and to have to do all that transition? Because I know mentally for students it messes all up. So I can only imagine what it did to teachers.
Yeah, and I'm a parent too.
Oh,
so both of my kids stayed at home.
Yeah.
And so that's not a world that any of us were used to, and now they're getting frustrated with their classes. My oldest one, who's a senior now, she's just about to graduate. She's off in her room, done, quiet. And I'm like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. She gets her stuff done.
Yeah.
The 7th grader, a little different, 'cause she's already frustrated with school, and then simple dad questions like, well, how come you haven't figured that out? Or ask your teacher. It's like, Dad, I'm trying, I don't understand. So there's a lot of that going on at the same time that I'm trying to, lead a class and just survive the day. So just the proximity of people in the house and, switching up what you do where you are. Like, if I'm at work, I'm at work. Right? I go into the building, I do my thing, and when I leave, I'm done with it except for the grading and planning and stuff like that. But now I'm doing that, and I'm in the house where you do house things, and that took a while to get used to. Same time, I didn't have to get up at the crack of dawn just to get over to the building, but it was just weird, and maybe we'll look back in years from now and say it was an interesting, maybe even fun time. I don't agree with the idea that kids didn't learn anything, because in general, I think we learn everything every day. We're learning something all the time. We're just learning something different that doesn't quite jive with what we've learned up to this point. So I'll be more curious as to moving forward, what do we keep? Theoretically, we go back in the fall, classes will happen in Parkland. They'll happen across the country. But are there some things that we learned out of COVID that we want to keep doing? If you're talking, you talk to your business folk all the time about you got to pivot. COVID exposed a lot of things in this country.
Yeah, it did.
And those who can learn from that, and then to maybe take some of those pieces of what you did this last year and keep going with it. I'm really curious as to what that's going to be, not only in the business world, but also in the academic world.
Yeah.
There's some things that I didn't like, but, here we are.
Yeah,
so let's move on.
Yeah, thanks. Man, we got into it without even speaking about like who you are, your background and stuff. But who is Mr. Sikora?
Oh, what am I? I am a middle-aged father of two, husband. I guess I'll start now, going backwards. I'm a college soccer coach here at Parkland. What else? I grew up in Champaign.
Okay, were you born here too?
No, I was born actually in the Philippines.
Okay.
So I was born pretty much in the middle of the Vietnam War, right? So if you're in Southeast Asia, where I was born, that covered everything of your life.
Yeah.
My father was Air Force, and so when he got finally done with his overseas commitments, they said, hey, we got to ship you back stateside, and you decide where you want to go. And he ended up in getting re-stationed at this small town called Rantoul. When the Air Force base there was open. My mom didn't want us to live on base, so she said, let's pick the next largest town, and that was Champaign.
Okay.
So I grew up in Champaign. Went to Centennial, I went to Jefferson, I went to Robeson. Graduated from Centennial, went off to college. I went to Illinois State University, and I thought I was a D1 athlete, like a lot of dummies coming out of high school. And for a brief moment, I was. But then that was pretty short-lived. And my competitive soccer career ended about age 19. I didn't do what a lot of kids do in sports and transfer. I'm not feeling slighted by the coach or whatever. I just I think I'm done. Everyone knows when their career is over, and that was it for me. It was injuries. I didn't have the drive anymore. I was a bit burned out.
How did you accept that? Was it just naturally, or?
No, it was awful. It was. I kind of felt like it was taken away from me. And so when that happens, there's a lot of anger. I don't know what the 5 stages of whatever, there's anger, denial, and eventually acceptance. Well, that acceptance for me didn't come for at least another 2 years.
Wow.
I went through really bad, dark, depressing time my freshman year of college when my career was over. I hated everything, and I didn't want to stay in school, let alone think about transferring. But some things happened that got me over that, and then I went back to school and changed up what I was interested in.
What made you change?
Yeah, so you were talking earlier, like what made you become a teacher? And that was that moment, the middle of my sophomore year. Well, 2 things. One, after my freshman year, between my freshman and sophomore year, I came home. And sometimes you need to be away from things to know why you went away, right? So when I came back, the people that were still here just, they weren't doing much that I thought would help me in the future, just hangers on. And so I needed to be around them to remind me that I didn't want to be back here. That's number one. Number two, I got a job. Actually, my dad got me a job, and it was one of the worst jobs I could ever imagine anyone doing.
What were you doing?
He told me, like, when you come home, you got to find a job. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'll get to it. But you're, freshman college year, you sleep until 1, you're up until 2 a.m., whatever. And he said, if you don't find one, I'm going to find one for you. I'm like, yeah, okay. And he found one for me. So he said, Monday morning, I'm going to take you to work. You got to be there at 8. You got to wear jeans and a white T-shirt. Whatever. He drives me all the way on the other side of Urbana, on the University Avenue, up to the Urbana Champaign Sanitary District.
Yeah. Oh man.
So basically, for those of you who don't know, right? That's that. When you flush your toilets, where this is the whole underground of what happens. 8 to 4 every day, all summer, 95 degrees, didn't matter.
Oh,
I was working,
bro.
I was working at that plant, and I didn't quit. And I won't tell you the stuff I had to do and what I saw, whatever. I mean, granted, I know much more about your sanitation than most people ever need to know, but it did a couple things. One, somebody's got to do that job, and the people that I met who that was their life, but great people.
Yeah. But
man, I didn't want to be looking down my road and saying, and no offense to these folk.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for them showing up every day doing this stuff, because if
for
they didn't,
years.
and if they didn't, like, this whole city would it would be awful.
Yeah.
And they were good people, and so I loved them, but I also didn't want to be that.
Yeah.
And I didn't quit, right? I kept going. I was like, damn it, I'm staying in school, because I know I could always do something like that if I dropped out, but I'm ready to give it another go, just to possibly keep me 4 steps away from that.
Yeah.
So when I went back to school, I had to do some volunteer hours for an organization. So I was like, whatever, I'll go to middle school, right? I'll tutor some kids. So I started tutoring these two boys in middle school. And it was really more about just hanging out with them, and helping them with some math and things like that. But it just became natural, like working with young people.
Yeah.
Okay, this isn't all that bad. And then, so that was a teaching part that hit, right?
Yeah.
I was taking a history course, because I had walked in as a marketing major. So not only was my career over, my classes were killing me.
Yeah.
My heart wasn't in it. I was just trying to slug through, and sometimes I wasn't very successful.
Yeah.
And then I was taking a history course, and then something in there clicked with me.
Yeah.
Like, I think I have a mind for this. I can see the importance of these things. I mean, not only did I understand what was going on there, but I also saw coming back how important that could be for me.
So you stumbled to your passion, basically.
Yeah. So that was part 2, right? So I'm thinking, okay, history teacher, work with kids. And the third part was a friend of mine said, hey, there's a club team on campus that needs a coach.
Yeah.
This is the women's club team at ISU. I was like, I guess. I mean, I know some stuff. I've never coached before, like, for real. But if they need somebody, it gives me a chance to be in the game, So roughly at age 20, all 3 things hit at the same time.
Yeah.
By the end of that semester, I was like, you know what? I think being a soccer coach, teaching high school history, that's what I want to do. So I called my dad. I'm like, look, because I was on loans, not on everything. It's like, honestly, I hate where I'm at. I want to change my major. I think I'll be much happier. And I was worried. He was like, sorry, about no money for another year.
Yeah.
He said, honestly, and the greatest piece of advice I ever got: 1 year for the rest of your life. I think that's a good enough trade. So he's like, do it. Now, granted, I can take out more loans, right?
Yeah.
But from that point on, so second semester, sophomore year, I was laser focused, and I was glad I didn't transfer, because looking back, that was the best thing ever. I was at a great school for education.
Yeah.
I was happy, or happier, and I had a goal at the end.
Yeah.
It just took me an extra year.
Yeah.
So then I graduated, and my old school offered me a job.
Centennial.
Yeah, which was weird.
Yeah.
But I started January '96, and that's when this aspect. I was teaching. I've been coaching ever since. I've been coaching longer than I've been teaching. And there's a lot of days where you're like, man, this is awful. I want to get out of this. But I've also believed that if you have more good days than bad, you're still in the right spot.
Yeah.
And I'm still having a lot more good days than bad.
Yeah, that's good. What would you say to somebody who's trying to find their passion? Like, how do you find your passion, basically?
I think the biggest thing is to put yourself out there and to be open to as much of a varied existence as you can. I know you talk a lot about early on in one of your shows, talking about, this is something, public speaking has never been my thing, but screw it, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
And think about, after you've made that initial move, how many things have opened up for you as a person, as a professional, whatever. And who knows where this is going to take you, but you probably feel like, had you not been brave enough to just say, screw it, let's go.
Yeah.
What you be limiting yourself to. And I think there's plenty of examples of people who are too afraid to ever make the jump. Fear of failure, fear of I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to fail, fear of people going to be saying garbage about me, so I'm never, I don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
If you do that, to me, you're never going to be successful. You're never going to find that passion. Sometimes it's location-wise, like it's just physical. Like, where are you here physically? Where else can you go?
Yeah.
Go look at other places, man. Go meet other people, because you never know, right? The next person you run into, that could be they could turn you on to that passion.
Yeah.
But if you stay in your safe space and limit where you go physically,
where you're comfortable.
Yeah, and limit who you meet, and limit the experiences that you could have, you'll never know. I worry that people your age are so caught up. I know it feels like they're in a big world, but they're in such a small space, oftentimes through their phones.
Yeah.
That's
true.
And I know, like, I'm on Twitter and I'm seeing stories from all over the place. I get it. So it feels like you have that connection, but you really don't.
Yeah.
Right? You get some surface level stuff, and there is no true interaction, beyond
And even with that, you follow who you want to follow.
Yeah.
So it's like, you make up what you're seeing online. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're limiting yourself in those ways as well. So go back to your original question. Just be open for new things and read the signs.
Yeah.
And I know it gets tricky, especially when you get into college. Like, well, I'm paying money for doing this thing, so I got to get through. Like, fine, obviously be on your job here, but also, go join a different club. Go figure out what else is going on out there, and you might like it.
Yeah.
So that's it. I mean, that happened for me. I don't know if it happens for everybody else, but I was very open to the idea. Which gets me to this idea about this business. Like, I didn't grow up with a business mentality. I mean, I know businesses exist.
Yeah.
But I found something. I had an opportunity come my way that was very specific to my other passion, which is soccer.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right. But then there's a lot of this negativity. It's like, well, that's going to be a lot of money. Well, you lose that. What happens if you fail? You're going to be another one of these statistics. And I'm like, maybe. Yeah. But you're not going to know until you take the risk. And so that's how I got into that. Just the opportunity opened up, and there are a lot of days I'm like, oh, why the hell did I pick up the phone that day? But other days like this.
But how did the opportunity come up though?
So this business opened up, I guess, about 8 or 9 years ago, maybe. Yeah, right in there. Indoor soccer facility. And so when I was kind of playing still as an adult, this is the greatest thing ever. We never had this growing up. What a great space. So I was familiar with it. Good business, good family, small type thing. And they had decided, the previous owners decided they had two options. Either they're going to expand or they're going to get out.
Yeah.
They had some other things they wanted to do, so they wanted to get out. So they called myself and two of my buddies up saying, we want to keep this as family friendly, keep on the mission that we're doing. You guys could be, a great.
But how did you get on that list for them to call?
So, if it's weird to say, but soccer in Champaign.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Everybody knows each other.
It's a very small world, right?
Yeah.
And I've been in it really from the ground floor. So, for the local club, like I played on one of the first local club teams. When they started high school soccer, I was in 8th grade, so I was just there at the infancy as well. I coached at Centennial for 10 years on the boys' side and 6 years on the girls' side.
Yeah.
And then I started Parkland, I guess 16 and a half years ago. So I've always been around the soccer, environment here. So, and so they wanted to keep it, not some weird outside group coming in. It's like, we're going to suck up this building and we're going to run it our own way. They wanted to keep it local. So my name was in that mix, and another buddy of mine who I grew up with, we played club ball. He's from Urbana. He's like, look, they want to try us first.
Yeah.
If we say no, then they'll go somewhere else. But I'm like, you can tell me that I can get into a business that is up and running. It's got a great reputation. They're doing okay in the positive side, financially, and it's soccer related. And my kid plays. She's playing in there all the time. I'm like, yeah, we'll take a look.
Yeah.
And it started with like, yeah, whatever, right? Because I'm thinking, when they start throwing out big numbers, I'm like, come on, I'm a teacher. I ain't got that kind of scratch to get into this. And so that was the day one. Well, 9 months later, when we started talking about, damn, we could actually do this.
Yeah.
With some creative financing and stuff like that. Like, all right, let's try it.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into that a couple of years ago. And I have this vision, of course. Once I retire teaching, then then the big money's in, right? I'm off. I got another house somewhere in like Florida or the islands or something. I don't know, but it works for now.
Yeah.
That's. Yeah, I at my age now, and with kids and stuff like that, I got to think about long term. But at the same time, I'm also really short term thinking. Like, this is a good idea now. Is it going to be that way in a week? I don't know, but let's try this now.
Yeah. How was your wife's reaction to you taking this big step?
Relationships, they work when you support one another 100%, even if you have apprehensions.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that if you asked her, she'd been like, "This is the dumbest thing you could ever think of." Because when they start laying papers in front of you, talking about, all right, this is how much you got to put up now, and if it all crumbles and you got to, we got to liquidate your assets. One of those things might also be your house.
Wow.
This isn't one of those, hey, I had a whim, I just went out and bought a motorcycle type thing, right? But she's been great, and this is what you also need. You need people, even if they do have misgivings about what you're doing, but it'll still support you 100%. And she did. Now she did warn me. She's like, if we lose our house, I'm gonna kill you. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it, because that's like the last thing they're gonna do. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose my house, man. and I'll be dead. But that's all right, because she's gonna kill me, and then I won't have to worry about it. And so she's also a voice of reason, and she keeps me grounded and saying, I don't think that's going to be a good idea if you guys do that, right? And again, she'll say, she won't say don't do it. Yeah. She'll say you need to think about what's at stake here. Which, if I wasn't married to her, or even before I was married, I'd be like, whatever, let's go. So she's been good at that, very supportive. So I drive her, I'll do the same thing for her, right? She's like, hey, I want to go do X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, if you think that's the right thing, go for it. Yeah. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, what's something that you wish you knew when you started that business?
I wish I knew, man, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Or maybe what are some things that failed or were tough in the beginning?
Yeah, figuring out the right level of engagement that you need to be in this business.
You mean as an engagement with like you?
As far as me physically being, being there, like
okay.
you feel like, all right, this is my baby. I'm gonna grind 100%. And I get it, right? Because you feel like the more you grind, the more successful you're gonna be. But not really knowing what that right percentage is. And so a lot of that you just got to figure out in kind of like a yearly cycle. Like, okay, these months, absolutely, all hands on deck. We're busy. We got to keep the ship going where it is, but also how do we expand? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of trial and error. And then, you learn, you're learning on the fly, basically.
Yeah.
So I wish I would have known. I mean, I guess you always know when you're in business, like, it's not always going to go your way.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just cannot grind your way out of it. The situation is just beyond your scope and your control, and that's okay. Control what you can.
Yeah.
I suppose also, like, how do you keep growing? Because there's that old business idea, like, if you ain't growing, you're dead, right? And I get that, but at the same time, it's such a weird industry, and it doesn't always work that way. How much do you want to change what you're doing for growth's sake, but it might be the wrong decision, changing brand, or you don't want your brand to change because that brand seems to work with what it is. Had I spent more, had more background, maybe business, I would probably be a little bit ahead of those things, but I don't. So I'm just kind of learning those things as we go. Other than that, I mean, I knew a lot, right? I knew the fact that I knew enough to know that this thing could fail miserably, and be okay with that. It was a good time for me to do it also financially, because I could absorb the loss.
How so?
I had enough money saved up through different, I started a Roth when I was like 21. So and part of that, I watched my brother, I watched my father. My dad was getting his MBA when I was like in high school. I didn't know what the hell he was doing, but I knew he was doing something. And I had friends of mine whose mom was she worked at like A.G. Edwards and at that time, and I remember her sitting down with all of us as we were like graduating high school, and she said, "Look, this isn't as scary as you think. You should start putting money away now. I'll help you out, but then I'm gonna let you go." And she's always had been kind of my financial advisor, so she got me started at a pretty young age. And I also knew that when I retire, my knock on wood, my teacher pension will still be around, so I'll be okay there. Had I not had that money set aside already,
you don't think you would have?
I don't think I would have done it.
Okay.
No, because I was still a little bit scared about it. But I'm like, you know what? I've gambled enough in my life, playing cards or being in a casino to know, don't spend money you ain't got. And don't bet on something that you can't absorb the loss. So that helped really seal the deal for me. Because we all agreed this is how much that we can afford to put in. I could probably put in more, but I didn't want to spend all my Roth out on that. But that's a tricky proposition, because that Roth, like, you got that thing earmarked for this next stage of life. But then I thought to myself, well, that's what I've been, maybe I've been investing in myself all this time for this moment. Let's do it. It might be the worst mistake I ever made, but again, it works for now, right? It works for now. It got me the opportunity to get in now, and and again, we'll be okay.
I was because you own, so it's a soccer club, or
it's an indoor soccer facility.
Okay, so you own an indoor soccer facility, and then COVID-19 hit. The world shuts down. Everybody's in the house. How did you handle business?
Well, the business was handled for us.
Yeah.
You ain't open,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like everybody else, it was government mandated order, and even if it wasn't, it was. I mean, I wouldn't have gone in.
Yeah.
You know, with all the transmission, and especially in our business where people are so face to face.
Yeah.
You know, and I know people are bitching about governor shutting everything down. No,
Yeah.
you know, people are stupid, but it was closed roughly. I remember it was about spring break, right? March, a year and a half ago or whatever. And then like, okay, I was okay with it because it was nothing that we could do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If we made some bad decisions or investments or decided, and then we burned the whole damn thing
Then
to
it
the
stays
ground.
in your mind.
Yeah.
And, you know,
then that sticks with me.
Yeah.
But it's a pandemic. No one is inside. No one can do anything. We turned the lights off. We tried to, you know, initially we tried to get as lean as we could. Unfortunately, you know, you gotta let people go.
Yeah.
But they understood.
How is that? Like, have you fired somebody? Or okay.
Another tip to business: hire people that are good in those jobs.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, we had a manager. We had two actually at the time, and you know, a lot of part-time employees and stuff like that. Right now, that's the manager's job.
Yeah.
But I mean, the kids that we really kids that we hired, you know, high school, college age kids, they got it. They understood it. You know? If we could keep you on, we would, but there's no hours, nothing. So we had to trim almost down to barely keeping the electricity run, just so you know, for the deal with the elements. But other than that, nothing to do. For a year, over a year, that was our existence.
When did y'all open back up?
I guess it was, man, maybe a little bit before spring break this year, so maybe February. So as things started easing up.
Yeah.
But even so, when our business model, yeah, you might say, you know, you can be indoor space. You gotta have masks, and you know, we were doing all the cleaning and everything else like that because that's what we were being told to do.
It comes to the customer.
Yeah, it's personal choice.
Yeah.
And if people were anything like my family, no, yeah, certainly we can go to the grocery store. I ain't going.
Yeah.
You know, and so we couldn't pivot enough, like what grocery stores or restaurants were able to do, to say like we don't have that sort of product. Like people have to come to us. People have to be comfortable in coming to us, and it's not just one person, right? You need teams. We had leagues and we had lessons and stuff like that were going on, and so even though the restrictions were starting to open a little bit, you know, it was tough. It was a tough sell to get people to be comfortable to come back in.
Yeah.
You know, and now one of the few things I suppose is the reason why the government's around. You know, one of the guys in our group is really good with the financial. You know, he's got the finger on the pulse of the government assistance programs, the SBA stuff, the PPP, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we were going after every single dollar we could find just to, you know, keep our head above water, and then hopefully also have some money in the bank so that when we can open up, and we do, and we need to get some people on staff again, that we can afford it. And how long, you know, can we do that until we get hopefully everybody coming back in and joining in? So we were right on the edge, you know, and it's one of those like, well, who do you go to? Like, you go to the bank. Well, the banks can't do anything for you until the government does something, and the government, they're fighting over these, you know, these packages, and you just gotta wait, and even once it gets passed, we don't know how much is going to actually get out to the banks, which ultimately would get to us. But we kept applying for everything that we could. You know, we got enough to keep our doors, you know, somewhat open, or you know, keep the business viable until it opens up again. And then the real test, you know, and that's kind of where we are right now. The real test is going to come next indoor season, which roughly is around September. If things can get back to where they were pre-pandemic, we're going to be in good shape.
Yeah.
If they don't, we got other problems to figure out. We'll just deal with that. So.
Yeah. So you had told me this was a while ago when Elevate first came. Now you said that you had a chance of being a co-owner or something something of that sort?
We had, there was a talk maybe about pivoting the business that we were in to something like Elevate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know, could our town, like Champaign-Urbana, could they sustain 2 jump parks?
Yeah.
But that conversation died pretty quick because I'm not interested in being a business that I have no real heart in.
Yeah.
Soccer has always been my thing, you know. So, and then we thought, there's no way you're not gonna put 2 jump parks in this area and it's gonna be successful.
Yeah.
One of and I did, and I've been to, you know, Elevate a bunch of times with my kids, and I'm just like, I don't want. This is not a business I want to get into. It's too much liability.
So was that part of your like business philosophy, like just invest in something that you believe in or that you have passion for?
Yeah, that you can get behind.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be in some soulless just because it's dollars.
Yeah.
You know.
Because then it's hard to wake up and go and.
Yeah, and especially for a product that I don't believe in or service I don't believe in.
Yeah.
Like no offense to Elevate. I walk in there and it freaks me out. Like to me, there's a broken leg every 10 seconds somewhere, and like I don't want to. That's not the life I want to live.
Yeah.
You know, and you would be, and then the other part of that is, you'd be a franchisee, right? This is a nationwide thing. I probably don't want to be in a business that I'm beholden to the corporate.
Yeah.
You know, so that died quick. You know what we're gonna do now. I don't know. We're looking at changing. We're looking at changing location. If we can get out of this COVID business and get back to where we were pre-COVID, that would become much more real.
Yeah.
But again, soccer. I still feel like I think there's more places that soccer can go in this community, and I want to be able to take it there.
All right. Yeah, okay. And back to teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So my girlfriend, she wants to be a teacher, and so I was wondering, like, what advice do you have to any aspiring teachers or people who want to go in the education field?
Has she? I mean, I don't know, how far into the process is she?
She's just getting into college now.
Okay. Man, well, first off, more people should go into teaching.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the greatest things you can do, because it's, at the end of the day, it ain't about dollars.
Yeah.
You know, dollars are important, no doubt. You got bills to pay, but you know, working with young people is super important, and it's going to give you a lot more happiness and joy,
Fulfillment.
yeah, value to your life. Depending on the age group, right? I know very little about elementary, and just as little about middle school years. High school, I know a lot about. You know, So if I knew more of that, I could help her out, or anyone out there who's interested. I could help them out a little bit more.
Well, let's just phrase it like this: what were some of the challenges that you had when you first got into teaching, and then what is something that went great for you?
I you know, getting to know your students is one of the most difficult things, especially when you're staring in the face of, you know, 25 kids per hour. At the high school level, you know, doing that 5 times a day. You know, I know I piss a lot of teacher folk off, education folk off when I say this, but it's sales. There's so much about the education world that is much like the business world. And in order for you to be able to sell your bill of goods, whatever it is, you know, your science class, your history class, or whatever, you got to know the people that you're working with the best that you can, and as early as you can.
Well, I never thought about it like that.
Because, you know, they ain't buying if you don't believe in what you're teaching.
Yeah, facts.
They're not buying if they can get a sense that you don't care about them. Like teachers that just stand up there and say, "This is what I'm doing. You either pick it up or not, but we're going anyway." You know, I think from the student perspective, like, well, their heart's not in it. Like, they don't really care if I get this or not. They're just out here throwing grades. you're never going to get it,
Yeah.
you know. So early on, like being able to make connections and to tap into your clients,
Yeah.
and the students are the clients. There's
Yeah.
no other way I can look at it, you
Yeah.
know. And so much of business, as you know, is about building trust, and it's about selling a product you believe in. You can fake it.
So
for,
you sold me, huh?
Yeah, yeah. You can fake it for a while. You can don't get me wrong. You can fake it for a while. I think a lot of times, like anything else, your heart's not in it every day.
Yeah.
But kids, maybe more than adults, see through it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I tried not to forget from my own education experience the teachers that did those things and the teachers who didn't do those things.
Yeah.
And it never fails, right? The teachers who didn't do any of those things, they were just there to draw a paycheck. They had their lives, you know, the directions they didn't care if we were learning these things or not.
Yeah.
Couldn't stand.
Yeah.
You know. And as I look back in my early years of teaching, it was always the teachers that you could tell they cared about you and they cared that you got these things, you know. For me, though, it became a little bit easier based on the subject matter. Like, no offense to math teachers or science, like, I see.
It's just not you.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's value, and yes, as an adult, you use math all the time.
Yeah.
Science is very important, but, you know, for my subject matter, I find it's that much easier to get to those connections and to get to meaning behind these things. Now, it might not happen today.
Yeah.
Right, but in a couple years, you'll see. It'll be important to you. But just at the early part, constantly think about how do I get in touch with these students, and have to listen from day one. Not even just having conversation with them face to face, but it's just, you know, survey what's going on out there.
Yeah.
You know, what are they into? And when you know that, then you can take this product that you're trying to sell and you change the pitch a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know, so that's crucial at the beginning. Yeah, and I figured that out early. You know, and a lot of the things I talked about with students in my first couple of years, and maybe even still now, is not really about curriculum at all. Or if it is about curriculum, it'll come in like 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
You know. And I try not to start anything with, all right, this is what we're going to learn today. It's more like, hey, you know, what's going on out there? Tell me what you think about it. Oh, and by the way, this is also what you should know as well.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't know what she's doing or what her level of age kids or whatever she wants to work with, but more power to her. There's going to be some long days.
I can imagine. Yeah. I'm gonna let you get out of here pretty soon because I know you have to be going. But so is there any advice that you could give to somebody who does not have the mindset that you have? Because even with the security that you had, right? Security that you had to make that jump, a lot of people are not making that jump. You know, and a lot of people, like you said, if your wife had a venture or something. You're gonna support her if she feels, you know what I mean, like, hey, F it, you know what I mean? How do you get that mindset? And while you think about that, I'm gonna just let people know. Subscribe to the channel, you know what I mean? Hit the like button, hit the share button, you know. And I also got an Instagram page that you can follow. It's called Black and Brown Success. Post nothing but Black and Brown successful people, award winners, entrepreneurs. It's just a great channel. Go ahead, you know, it's in the description. Go ahead, do your thing, but yeah, you can go ahead.
Oh, with that plug, I completely forgot what your question was.
About a mindset, how somebody can have that effort mindset, basically.
Yeah. I think, you know, try to research. I mean, now more than ever, you got so much more information at your fingertips.
Yeah.
There is no harm in looking, you know. Your learning should never stop, even if you're outside of a quote unquote, defined classroom or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Look, you know, read up on people and things that have happened prior, and every time you get into something, figure out how can I use it. it might not make sense at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm reading about this. I'm reading. I listen to a lot of podcasts too, especially in like businesses and how they're made. Now, I have no idea about this vegan, shoe company. But there's something about what they did that I'm like, oh, you know what? Out of a 1 hour story of them, 99% of it isn't going to work for me. But this 1%,
there's one thing that you can take out.
This might work. Yeah. And everybody and everyone you meet and everything you read and every experience that you have, there's always going to be something to learn.
Yeah.
Much of it's going to be throwaway, or I know I don't want to do that.
Facts.
Right? Because even though they were successful, it is. But now you're already thinking as to how you could use every single thing that you're coming across.
Yeah.
There is no conversation or research piece or anything you read online. If you think hard enough, everything has value. Yeah. There's no zero sum game there, and have the willingness to say, you know what, what they say, show me your friends, I'll show you your future type thing. I think I said that to you years ago.
Yeah.
You got to understand that there's some people out there they're great. Yeah. They're your boys or whatever you want to hang out, but they're not quite what you need. Yeah. Stay with them, but at the same time, feel okay with breaking away and doing something different, because you got to surround yourself with people who, not saying that they're going to be yes people, right? I'm saying, but they're going to support you, and they're going to also challenge you to a point where you say, I never thought about that either, or look, I just read this thing, I want to bounce this off you real quick. Yeah. Right? What do you think? Anytime you have a chance to practice that, anytime you just having a conversation, get it out in public, not necessarily always, online, it helps, and it's a mindset. And really the biggest thing is, like I said, is that mindset. Every conversation, every experience, there's something to learn from, and like I said at the beginning, like the more you have, the more well-rounded of a life you're going to lead, and you'll never know, where the next inspiration is going to come from.
Thanks. Like something you said, it kind of just hit me, because it's important to search for what is for you, but also search for what is not for you too, because that can get you closer to what is for you. So like it reminded me of this internship I took. I was in this class. It was probably that was probably the most useful class for me ever. It's called ECP. ECP. Yeah. So it's the internship class, whatever. And I was doing marketing, and I came here at Parkland College for an internship program, and I think it was maybe 12 weeks or something, and every week I would come here once a day. And marketing, was my major, and that's what I chose for prior to that. But then coming to the internship, every single day that I came here, I'm like, this isn't what I want to do. You know what I mean? And every single day I just came, I like, it's not like I don't like working or anything, but it was just, I felt like in a cage, and I felt like if it wasn't for that class, if it wasn't for that experience, I would have never knew that. Yeah.
Or if you would have gone on not knowing that. Yeah. You would have learned that
after
later, right? When there's real consequences. You get older. There's real money at hand, right? There's real time issues at hand. Absolutely, right? I mean, there's something to learn from everybody, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there to figure it out.
Well, man, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you, Mark.
Go Cobras.
Yes, sir. So, man, y'all have a good day. Like I said, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Check out Parkland soccer team if y'all can. And peace.